Today begins the process for the Trump legal team and their attempt to persuade the election boards of election fraud. Good afternoon, everybody. I am Brian Glenn, live at the Windom Hotel here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, for what was announced earlier today as the Trump legal team announced that the state of Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Michigan would hold a public hearing on the election beginning today and, of course, going into next week as well, in an effort to provide confidence that all of the legal votes have been counted and all of the illegal votes have not been counted in the November 3rd election. Now, today is the first hearing by the Pennsylvania State Senate. Now, the way it's going to go down is each senator will give a 5-minute opening statement followed by testimony from witnesses who have filed affidavits attesting to the 2020 election fraud. Today's hearing also will be in attendance of former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, as well as Jenna Ellis. We both can confirm we saw them earlier today as we were outside the hotel. But welcome, everybody, as we make our way into Thanksgiving. We knew this day would come. We've heard for weeks that the evidence is being compiled. They are waiting for the right moment to make all of this public. And today, perhaps, is the first step in all of this of proving that election fraud and voter fraud existed in several key swing states. And here in Pennsylvania has been one of the focus that we've seen across the state, not only in mail-in ballots that have been bad, fraudulent voting, the rules of monitoring the election process were violated. We'll see some of that today, I would expect. Plus, I'm sure the Dominion software that has been talked about so widely will be introduced as well. So we've got a crowd here. What you're looking at now is we've got probably about 25 to 30 people in the room right now. These are just Trump supporters. These could be people that are part of the filed affidavits. These are witnesses, perhaps. We'll learn more about who is actually in the room right now. And then back behind there, facing us, are some key Pennsylvania state senators that will have 5 minutes to basically explain their case with evidence of election fraud and voter fraud that we've seen here in the 2020 election. And, you know, we've all seen on social media, we've seen the post by Jenna Ellis, and she just posted one up a few minutes ago, and I'll read some of those out to you, that they have been working on this for a while. And, of course, Sidney Powell, just days ago, that news broke that she was separated from the Trump legal team, was no part of the Trump legal team, and she never was on the payroll and a part of the Trump legal team. She's led her own investigation to all of this, and I would only expect more evidence coming from her later on in the week and perhaps next week. But today, it's all about the Trump team. We're going to hear that evidence. These senators are going to speak. They're going to lay out proof from affidavits and witnesses that have been compiled over the last several weeks after the election. This today could be one of the biggest steps that we've seen so far post-election in proving the evidence of election fraud. And, of course, a lot of the mainstream media still to this day refuses to even acknowledge the fact that it existed. And I think it's going to take an event like this to present evidence, factual evidence, and sworn affidavits that will perhaps convince the public court of opinion that absolutely was the case. I saw a stat today that said 92% of all Republicans feel that this election was stolen from President Trump, that Joe Biden did not win the election. Only 3% of Republicans thought that Joe Biden won the election fair and square, and then like a certain percentage, the rest were just unknown. They just were undecided at this point. There's a lot of speculation. Of course, the news, the mainstream media, for the most part, doesn't show you all of this the court evidence and the court cases that's gone on. They're very misleading headlines, and there's deceitful lies that are being told to the American people in regards to what this election outcome was the ending of it. So we're going to see all of this today. This is the first step, and I would think many steps in the next week, the next 2 weeks, all building up to, of course, December 14th is a key date as far as the state electoral college meeting and casting their votes. So perhaps the timetable is set. We need to make sure that all of this is presented in a clear fashion, not only for the public court of opinion, but for the courts as well. And hopefully we can get a ruling on that. We want to say thank you to all of our viewers right now. If it was not for you, this would not be possible. And I will say this, when I first walked in to the building earlier to get set up for this live shot, several people from the Trump administration and several people that are outside the hotel here specifically came up to me and said, thank you for all that you're doing here at Right Side Broadcasting, because if it wasn't for us, a lot of this would not happen. I'm looking around right now, and yeah, there's some national media here. We've got CNN just to my right, your left. They're not here yet. They're not fired up, but we are. We're going to bring this to you in its entirety and let you see all the evidence that's being presented by these senators of the great state of Pennsylvania and all the evidence gathered from witnesses and all the affidavits. We're going to bring that to you here. But what I'm getting to is it's about you. This is all about bringing the truth to you. And we thank you, our viewer. You can always go to our website.
Well, let's go with what we got. Please start.
Can you see us?
We see two
Yes.
ladies. Go
Can you
ahead.
see us?
Yes, we have the two ladies
Go
on the
ahead,
screen.
Barb.
Barbara Slicker.
My name is Barbara Slicker. I went to the voting polls on November the 3rd to vote in person. I waited 2 hours in line, and when I went in, I showed identification, and I was taken up to the polling place. The polling man showed me what to do, turned it on, and said, go ahead. I voted, and I printed it out, and when I got it and I looked at it, Trump was not on there. I voted for Trump, and it wasn't there. My daughter, I called her over, and I said to her, look, his vote is gone. I voted for him. So I called a poster over, and he said, it's not supposed to be seen. It's for privacy. Just put it through the scanner and you're done. It bothered me. It's been bothering me since, because I voted, and was it counted or was it flipped? I don't know.
And I'm speaking on my mom's behalf also as a witness. My name is Cheryl Nudo. I was there that day. I drove her to the polls. When she got done voting, she showed me the printout, and she was saying how the president's name that she voted for was not printed out when all the other delegates that she had voted for were on the printout. Me not knowing, because I had not voted yet, how the printout was supposed to look, we went to the pollster that was there and asked him why the president and vice president's name did not print out when all the other names of the candidates printed out that my mother had voted for. It seemed very strange, but not knowing any better, we asked, well, what is the next step? And he said, he said that it did not print out because that's for voters' privacy, that none of them vote, but none of them print out. So we asked him what the next step was, and he said to put it through the scanner. So that's what we did, and we left, and it seemed very odd. Then I went to where I live in Drums, Pennsylvania, which is about 10 miles south of where my mother voted. And I voted, no problem. Everything printed out just as, it should. And I scanned it through. So it just seemed very odd. And we wanted to report that in my mother's area, which was Fairview Township, it seemed very odd that it did not print out. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Charles Nudo, and by the way, my mother-in-law is 84 years old. She forgot to mention that. Anyway, my wife then,
80.
I'm sorry, she's 80. My wife called me that day. She was distraught and told me everything they just told you. So I go to my polling place around 3:30, 4 o'clock here in Drums. And when I first walked in, a young gentleman came up to me, started explaining how to vote. And he said, take the stylus, make your choices, then print it out with a printer that's underneath the machine. And I thought, that's odd. I've been voting since 1992. We never had to print a ballot. And I actually thought it was easier to vote in 92 on the World War II surplus voting machines with the curtain. You did your choices, opened the curtain, and they went click, and everything went. All of a sudden, we have to print a ballot. So anyway, I'm pretty good with computers. I made my choices. I printed it out. All my choices are on there, from president on down ballot. And he said, now you have to put it in the scanner. And he turned over a sample ballot and pointed at a weird triangle in the corner and smiled at me. I didn't know what he meant. So I go over to the scanner, and I'm wondering, well, a scanner works face down when you scan, because I have one at home, so I put it in face down or face up. So he's already across the room talking to another gentleman that's about 20 years older than me, trying to tell him how to do it. And I said, are these face up or face down? And he just nodded. He didn't say either way. He just nodded yes. So I put it in face up. So I don't even know if it scanned the blank backside or the voting top side. And anyway, I overheard that conversation, not wittingly or that I wanted to. A man, I'm 58, he was about 78, saying, oh, they said to him, now do you understand? And he said, yeah, I think, but my memory's not too good. And when I walked out of there, I realized it's total voter suppression. My mother-in-law here did not even get a cell phone till last year, has never sat at a computer and keyed anything in her life, has no Wi-Fi or internet service at her house. Neither does my mother. She has a cell phone, but it's a flip type. And these are the people that went by the thousands or millions to our polls and had to go through this system. And I just wanted to point that out. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Mastriano, before we turn to our next panel, I want to note that Senator Camera Bartolotta has joined us from southwestern Pennsylvania on Zoom, and Senator Bob Mensch from the southeast.